for another show. So how's the week been?
Are we live?
We're live.
Oh, okay. Hello. Wait, I tell you what, this has been one of the most
Don't say stressful. Challenging. Say
this is going
challenging.
to be the most challenging live we've done. For those of you who are watching live, you'll notice that our setup is very different today, right? And that's because we had some tech issues and we've had to kind of put some innovative measures in place. Like really innovative. If you saw what we were streaming off right now, you'd think you're a bunch of novices. You know, how the hell could you? But you know what?
It looks more professional.
Or they could be thinking, you guys are flipping awesome. You know,
Yes,
you guys have
you
sorted
upped
it.
the game.
You mastered your trade. Or they'll be thinking, you know what? These guys, nothing phases them. They'll just soldier on. You know, no negativity is going to affect them. But it is what it is. And we had some kind of glitches and we worked through them. In fact, we only managed to get things working in the last couple of minutes and we went live straight away.
Seconds.
So
in the last few seconds.
Even seconds, yeah, definitely. You know, this has been something, hasn't it?
Yes.
For a second, we thought we had something working, but there was some other challenges.
Which is the thing. The thing is, you always do your due diligence. You always come in an hour early, whatever, set up, check everything.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, it's clockwork, it's autopilot. You know, do we need this much time?
Exactly.
And today, I've come to realize, you know what?
We always need extra time.
You need extra time. You can never be too prepared because some things you just can't prepare for, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that time served us well today. But it also brings us on to our topic because today's topic is about adversity, failure, haters, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's
you know
what
what
today's.
There's going to be people watching today who are going to be thinking some of those things. Hopefully not all, because you know it's not nice.
But it is. You know, this is the thing. I mean, we've had. Look, everybody who lives through life will have faced some kind of an adversity or some kind of a challenge, or some people who aren't, you know, maybe their biggest fans, or they'll think, you know, you're not going to be able to do this. You know, this isn't good for you. You have fans on one side, and you have what we call frenemies on the other side.
Frenemies, I like that.
Yeah, friends who are really there to kind of chop your roots, or they don't really want to see you do well. Now, you can never doubt someone's sincerity, I guess, in the whole scheme of things, unless you know them really, really well and they have a track record of saying one thing and doing something else. But you know, it reminds me of the situation that occurred with me when I used to employ salespeople in an office. Right, these were all people who were self-employed. They had no basic salaries. Right, I was one of them at one stage. After I graduated, I needed to earn some money for the LPC, so I went into a sales job. It was a commission only job.
Purely commission, 100% commission.
All my sales roles have always been 100% commission.
Okay.
And apart from when I worked for British Telecom and the BT phone. Remember the BT phone book?
The phone book?
The opposite, is it the equivalent of the yellow pages? Yeah,
yellow,
the purple, blue purple one.
Yeah.
So I was one of their salespeople in there, and that's the only time I had a salary with the car and laptop and all that kind of the other perks. In all the other sales roles that I've ever had, it's always been commission only. And so what I did had to work. Anyway, that's to a side. But I remember going into door-to-door sales, right? My very first sales job was a door-to-door sales job. And I remember, fresh graduate in law, you can tell the family obviously sent their son off to become a very well-educated person and a respectable person in society. And imagine if I told them that I was knocking on people's doors, cold calling, trying to sell them Scottish Power, gas and electric for a living, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to sit well with them. Now, a part of that is because of the mindset they have. Well, I can't say there because it was only my mum, because my father had passed away a long time earlier. But for my mum, somebody who'd, you know, worked hard to bring her children up on her own, sent them off to university, went through a lot of hardships, and then realized that this guy has been at university for like 3-4 years. He's come out with a degree in law and he's gone into knocking on people's doors for a living, right? So it was I could understand from their side how that would have worked, or how they could have thought, my mum could have thought, or my family could have. So I didn't even tell him what I did. I lived away from home anyway at the time because I graduated and I was living in Birmingham, and I didn't even tell him. So it came back to mind as to people similar to me. There were other students who kind of joined my team. I was earning overrides off them. Eventually I had my own office. So every time somebody came to me and said, look, my parents aren't going to agree for me to do this job, I had to kind of preempt that negative and turn it around for them and educate them how to overcome that negative situation in their own households, whether it be their partners, the wife, the girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, or the parents, not agreeing with them to do this kind of a job. Now, for me, I'd seen the other side. I'd seen the fact that I'd hid that away from my family. I didn't tell him exactly what I was doing. I told him I was a sales or a trainee manager. Trainee manager was the title that I used because that's what I was doing. I was training to become a manager, but I didn't tell him exactly what I did. They were none the wiser, which worked okay for me. So eventually, when I had people working for me, they were going through a similar situation. So I had to tell them exactly what was going on and how to manage that situation. I didn't tell them to lie or anything, but you had to manage expectations. We have to manage in life that no matter what we set out to do, whether it's a sales role or whether it's something to do with your career or even your personal life, there will be people who will be your biggest fans. There will be your biggest supporters. But there will also be, on the opposite end of the spectrum, people who won't be your biggest supporters. And there may be people who don't want to see you do well, or they are doubters. Yeah. Okay. There are a whole array of different types of people who will come into your life, giving you different views and opinions.
Definitely, yeah.
So it was genuinely a case of, finding out what worked for you, what worked for them. And that's where this conversation starts, doesn't it? Because you start to think to yourself, am I really good enough to do this? Are they doubting me, or are they doubting this particular opportunity?
Okay.
Is it me who's not good enough to do this? Will I not be able to do this? Or is it because this opportunity isn't so good? Which one is it?
Question.
Go on.
So obviously in your sales role, you kept it hidden as to exactly what you do.
Yeah.
Because of previous experiences of naysayers and haters and critics, or just
because
the fear of?
Look, the thing is, I understood
because that's fairly early in life, isn't it?
Yeah, I was in my early 20s. I was 21, 22 years old. But I understood from an early life that there is a culture within my household which is not going to be easy to break straight away. It was easier for me to avoid telling them exactly what I did than try and break that culture from a distance. Yeah. Okay. So I know there's a mindset, and this is often what stops people from taking action. Their fear of what other people might say. Log kya kahenge. Yes. So I can guarantee my mum would have been one of those people who would have thought, what will people say if they find out you're knocking on doors and trying to sell things to people? You don't get a basic salary. You're replacing your shoes every three or 2.5 months because they're worn in so often.
Wow, this is back when you used to walk, yeah?
Mate, walking, we did some serious mileage. I lost a lot of weight, and in the beginning, I wasn't making any money.
But where's it come from? Where has that acknowledgement of people will hate and criticize come from?
It comes from within, in your unconscious mind. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't always consciously think that, but at the back of your mind is the thought process that's going on. And there are a couple of reasons why people fail sometimes in life. The main reason is fear. There's a fear of failure, but there's also a fear of success. We'll come to that later. There is a fear of success.
Okay.
The fear of failure has a lot of different angles to it in itself. There's the fear that, okay, it might not work, and I'll have lost my time, my investment, or whatever it might be, right? Mm-hmm. It could be a fear of being seen as a failure by the people around you. It could be a fear of, hang on, I've had these ideas, but if this doesn't end up working, I don't have any backup plan. Some people hold on to ideas in their minds thinking this is a fantastic idea, and that's all they have. Now, if they fail in their ideal situation, in the ideal idea, what do they have left? Do you get me? So there is a genuine fear of failure. There's a fear of the consequences of failure. That goes deeper. That's like shoving the knife in and now twisting it, if we were to explore that. So what are the implications of failure? That goes beyond just failure itself. And then if you have responsibilities like I did at the time, that's a bigger thing to weigh on the scales. If you have less responsibilities, you're going to be more risk averse because you have a lot more to lose, generally speaking.
Yeah. Well, you should be, at least.
Well, that's also debatable.
Really?
That's also debatable, depending on how well you've calculated that risk.
Okay.
Well, that's my risk management hat on there. But if the risk appetite is there, you can take that risk. But again, it all depends on how well you've calculated those risks of failing and whether that failure is now. And then it also depends on how much effort you're willing to put in to make anything a success. The fear element is a big element, because when doing something like this, let's say, take my example, the door-to-door sales example, it's going against the grain, isn't it? It's going against how many Asians would you see, Pakistani households, who would encourage their children to go and do door-to-door commission-only jobs?
At the time, I couldn't tell you, but now, well, since then it's changed, hasn't it?
Well, since then, the door-to-door industry has changed as well. Look, we're talking about growth. Growth isn't meant to be comfortable.
Yeah.
In whichever way we look at it, if we're looking to grow in our lives, in professional lives or personal lives, it's not meant to be a comfortable experience. It's supposed to be something that stretches us. In time, we can get to a stage where we are growing bit by bit, as long as we've got the stability to be able to take those risks. And then through that time of, we talk about comfort zones. People say, get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Now, I prefer to stay in my comfort zone, right? I say the comfort zone is the best place to be, but it doesn't mean you stay stagnant, because stagnant water stinks.
Yeah.
What you do is you become more comfortable at doing more things. So then more things become comfortable and you're stretching your comfort zone.
Okay. Yeah. So you increase your comfort zone by gradually.
Yeah. I mean, granted, there are times where you do have to end up taking certain actions where it's way out of your comfort zone. There are going to be situations like that, but overall, it's a part of the growth mindset, and that mindset, it comes from ourselves. People have anxieties. They have good anxieties and they have bad anxieties. There are good anxieties as well when you're about to do something really positive. But it's things like when people talk about envy, that's what I don't get. You have people who go out of their way, work really hard, work day and night. I slogged my guts out when I did my sales roles, right? I reaped some really high rewards. Nobody saw in the family what I was doing. They just saw the nice car and the flashy suits and all that in them days, right? This is the thing. We as a people, sometimes we care too much about what other people will think. And you can say, Majid, you're guilty of that. You didn't tell them because you cared about what they thought. You're right. But for me, it was easier to avoid having that conversation than having that conversation and changing the mindset at the time. With hindsight, now I can have that discussion and say, this is what I did at the time. I was working from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way till sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night. I used to come back to my flat, exhausted. I'm back every day, 6 days a week. Well, sometimes 6.5 days a week. And we used to, I was very competitive. Before the sales roles, I was a very reserved kind of a person. I didn't talk to many people. Shy guy.
Through uni?
Shy guy.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
Yeah, I was a shy guy. But what we hope to understand, Ali, is that we're all unique in our own way. Where's
the hate?
The hate.
Straight up question. You've got a nice car, you're wearing flash suits.
Yeah.
You're making money.
Yeah.
But nobody knows where it's from or why it's from, yeah?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're partially to blame. You get that, right? Because they're just seeing you roll up in a flash car, not knowing nothing.
Yeah.
They're partly to blame because they're not seeing the slugging and the slogging and the 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the fix to that? Is that just human nature?
What's the what to that?
The fix to that.
A fix to that. No, I think this is always going to be a gradual thing. When we get challenges like this, we have to overcome those challenges by help changing the mindset of the people. You know, like this thing about racism, any kind of discrimination.
Yeah.
I say this comes under discrimination as well. These kind of things also come under discrimination. You're discriminating against somebody for the kind of work that they do, or the status they hold in society, whether it's the color of their skin. We would talk about the racial discrimination, religious discrimination, what beliefs they have. This is also a form of discrimination, and it's a part of our unconscious mind. Is learned behavior most of the time. They say 95% of our actions are controlled or dictated by our unconscious mind. Only 5% are by our conscious mind. Yeah, a lot of these learned behaviors we can overcome, but they require gradual change. Yeah, if somebody wants to overcome certain inhibitions, or if they felt they weren't confident enough to do something or take certain steps, yeah, they can take some coaching or hypnotherapy. But the reality is, the most important thing is to take action, irrespective of that, irrespective of the fear of whatever it is. There is hate, but I think sometimes hate is a strong word. I think there's a lot of criticism from people in terms of look at so-and-so's son or daughter, what she's doing or he's doing. You know, they have a habit of talking, but why do you let that affect you?
That's a choice, isn't it?
That's a choice. You decide how people are going to make you feel, or people's words are going to. You're going to decide how much you allow somebody to have an effect on you. It's your decision. It's nobody else's.
Okay. It still doesn't explain one thing to me though. Why? Why is it that, and you've probably heard this said many times, they want to see you be successful, just not more than them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want you to drive a nice car,
Yeah.
just not better than mine.
Not better than mine.
I want you to live in a nice house, just not better than mine. Is that a learned behavior?
Yes. I think it's a lot to do with the way you have, part of partially upbringing, partially the way you see people around you behaving. And if they've behaved like that, you're more likely to behave like that. I'm not saying it's all down to upbringing. I'm saying some of it is, if not a lot of it is. I think between the ages of 1 and 6, children look to impress and seek approval from their parents. Now, if you're approving the wrong habits and not approving, or not seen to be approving of some of the good characteristics in a child, then that's going to be amplified throughout their lives. What we see around us has a big effect on us, unless we come into a consciousness, an active conscious decision to make some changes. And that only happens when we get to understand ourselves. You see, confidence comes from knowledge, in my experience, in my opinion. When you have knowledge, you're naturally more confident at doing anything, any task. Let's take driving a car, for example. When you first learn how to drive a car, you're slipping gears, you're not changing gears properly, you're over-revving, under-revving, understeering, oversteering, whatever it might be, yeah?
I didn't know that, by the way. I was a good driver.
Yeah, whatever.
14.
I believe. Oh, 14. Well, that explains
when
it.
I had my first car.
When you were 13, you couldn't have done it. Could you? Right? So at some point, you needed to learn how to do the cruise control,
yeah,
and everything consciously. Now we're at a stage, or shortly after, you get to a stage where you are able to do all those things on autopilot. Now the knowledge is there, and so is the experience. The problem we have is, as human beings, sometimes we sell ourselves short. We end up, this is what they call is imposter syndrome. When you feel, oh crap, someone's asked me to do this, and they think I'm really good, they might find I'm a fraud, or might find I'm not as good as they think I am. And these are thoughts that go through someone's mind, thinking they're actually not good enough.
Okay.
And they give themselves reasons to back off or not take action. That's what we call imposter syndrome. We feel like we are an imposter. Yeah.
Oh, so you're not actually an imposter. It's just a sin where you start to feel.
Yes. It's the way you feel.
So this isn't the whole fake it till you make it.
No, you actually may be really, really good. You may be shit hot at what you do, but you can't see it.
You start to doubt it.
You start to doubt yourself. Yeah.
Wow.
Other people can see how good you are. You're producing consistent results. You're making change wherever. But people are genuinely. I've gone through this myself at times. And I've doubted. This is way in the past.
Wait, what were you not good at? Or what did you start to think you're not good at?
There were, when I was working in the Middle East, for example, there were certain parts of the contract or certain parts of the scope of works which I got involved with, which were really high level, right? And these were like communicating with senior stakeholders, representatives of the royal family, for example, the seniors of certain organizations and stakeholders. And at that time, you think to yourself, oh, am I really meant to be in this?
I'm from Burton on Trent.
You know what I mean? Little lad.
I'm from Bunna area.
The Bunna area, Bunna area lad in this royal environment.
Yes.
And then you start doubting yourself. Not to say, I deserve to be there because I'm a royal. I might be a Mughal, but But
Your Majesty.
So it was a case of doubting whether it's something that I could actually do. But when I got into it, I thought there's nothing to this. Again, I adopted my sales skills in that environment. But the imposter syndrome is real. It gets people to think that you are not actually as good as you're made out to be.
So that would be brought on by others, their words, their criticisms, yes?
Claire's put a very good comment here. She's saying, to answer your first question with another question, why is it someone else's place to judge judge another person's success? Success is subjective.
Which it is.
Yeah.
But there's always got to be a unit of measure used. It's subjective, it's different opinions, it's whatever, different measurements, right? But there's got to be some kind of unit used. What do we generally use to measure success? Generally,
that's always going to be subjective. I think generally the society measures it by maybe the kind of car you drive, the house you live in,
wealth,
what your earnings are, materialistic things. I don't think I'd be wrong in thinking that most people would associate success with those attributes. Even though there's a high level of consciousness amongst some professionals who now look into it beyond that and think, actually, no, successful is having peace. If it costs you your peace, it's already too expensive.
Good point.
Yeah, and contentment.
But predominantly speaking, success is measured usually through wealth, assets, status.
Yeah, same thing, isn't it? It's all semantics, but probably the same thing, isn't it? You could probably not be so well off, but hold a high status in a community.
Yep.
That could also be a form of success.
Yeah.
In some people's eyes, or you could have a lot of wealth but not hold that kind of status, which could also be a form of success.
Which is true. Only you should really be able to measure your own success because you're the only one that knows what you set out to do. If somebody is unaware of your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, they're not really going to be in any position to measure your success because they don't know what you're trying to do.
Exactly. You see, in general terms, people have different ways of maneuvering in life. Some of us are what we call lefties, and some of us are righties in terms of which part of the brain, the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere, takes over when we're making any kind of decision, right? So people who are lefties are they're more like logic-based, facts-based, reason-based, so intellect-based decisions. People who are righties are known to be a bit more intuition-based. You know, they rely on intuition.
Sure, you can do a better word than intuition. Are we talking righties as in, are we talking right wing, left wing, or
No,
is
we're
that
talking
completely
about,
different?
No, that's a completely different discussion altogether. What I'm referring to is the brain functionality of an individual. Some people operate through life, and then they're recognized as psychology. They're recognized as lefties or righties in terms of the left hemisphere or the right hemisphere. So people who is the left hemisphere, use the left hemisphere more, they are more logical thinkers.
Literal, you know, there's
Facts,
reasoning,
figures, reasoning, and all that. People who are right hemisphere, the righties, they're a bit more intuition based, they're emotion
go with
based,
their gut,
arts, creative, you know, they're those kinds of people.
Okay.
The ideal state would be to have like a whole brain state, you know, where you can mix the two, or know how to mix the two, when to mix the two.
Which is rare. I think most people lean one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, Ibran says, when did anyone ever measure success with how happy a person is? Always based on materialistic things. This is the problem, isn't it? This is the problem.
This is the problem with somebody else measuring your success.
Yes.
When we talk about, for example, the Forbes rich list, or which athletes made the most money this year, or which, you know, actors had signed whatever deal, whatever. That is as far as the measurement of success goes. But you don't know if that person set out to make £1 million or not. Maybe they set out to, I don't know, achieve a goal, design a product. And they did that. And in the making of that product, they sold millions of it and became a billionaire. But their success isn't in that billion. Their success is in having something that works.
Exactly.
You know, that's their goal.
Yes. I think the fundamental question is, why let other people's perception or interpretation of success fall on you? Why adopt it? Why be affected by it?
I think there is scenarios where it does work. For example,
go on.
Athletes.
Okay, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about, is it?
No, but the point being is, outside of
general life,
a football player, or, you know, any sportsman or athlete, outside of that, because we know what they're doing, a weightlifter, the guy who lifts the most kilos, whatever it is, wins. That's success, right? Because he's come first, second, whatever it is. But in general life, it doesn't work like that. Outside of knowing exactly what somebody set out to do, we're none the wiser. You know, if somebody was to measure Majid Waris' success,
Majid Waris,
did I get that wrong? Wow.
Why does everybody get my name wrong?
I get it now.
It's not that hard.
I get it. At least it wasn't.
Just stick with magic.
So if somebody is to measure Majid's success, I'd slow down there.
Yeah, you have to.
Where do they stop? Nobody is in a position to measure Majid's success other than Majid.
It should be the case.
Yeah,
it's not, but it should be the case. The only person who should be measuring the success of me is me.
Yeah.
And then work on that. You know, I should be the one determining or understanding whether I am successful by the criteria I've created. Yeah. Now, what my criteria is created on could be right or wrong as well. My own criteria. Yeah, of course it can be wrong. If my criteria is based on something which is ethically wrong, morally wrong, religiously wrong, you know, there are things in there which I would have to do which contradict my values.
See, that's a different conversation, though. You've set out to, I don't know, give me an example of something that's ethically wrong, a goal that's ethically wrong that Majid may or may not do.
No, I'm not talking about the end goal. I'm talking about the process leading up to achieving that goal. So if I've set a criteria, this is what is success. I don't, first of all, think success is a destination. It's a journey.
So cliche. Success, of course, is a destination.
No, it's not.
No,
it's a journey. You may, let's just say you've achieved something, right? On the way to achieving something, you may have been successful or failed in certain steps.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a part of the journey. Yeah. Now, if you chose the wrong means to achieve that thing, then even though you may have achieved that thing, I don't think you were successful, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right? You could be achieving one thing and then realizing, actually, I want more. So where does this become? Is this the destination then anymore? It was only a part of the journey. When does anybody who has anything materialistic settle at that and think, I'm not going to upgrade or get
it doesn't have to be
better?
materialistic. The point is, you've set yourself a goal, you've achieved it. That's your measure of success. Obviously, you know, providing you're not dead, you set yourself another goal, or you move the goalposts, or you know, you set yourself another challenge in life.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What's your destination in terms of how do you see yourself as a successful? What's success to you in terms of your destination?
For me, success, it's a bit vague, it's a bit cliche, but I would say contentment, happiness.
Yeah.
You know, now obviously numerous things come into
okay, fair enough. Do you not see that as a journey, or do you think that's just a destination?
I think it can be a destination. I think it has to be a destination, you know.
It could be a goal, yeah. But do you not see it as a journey, is what I'm asking.
There is a journey,
yeah.
But the journey isn't the success. Do you get it?
I think there are successes and failures
I want to
that
sit
journey.
in my nice garden,
yeah,
in my nice chair, with my nice drink, which we don't have today, by the way. For me, that would be success. Yeah, no worries, no issues, no bills, no nothing. Metaphorically, I'm just giving an example. Now, in trying to get there, the success isn't in trying to get there, is it? It's in getting there. If I haven't been able to sit in my hammock, which was a chair a minute ago, and enjoy that peace and quiet in my garden, have I succeeded?
You may not have succeeded in getting the hammock, but you may have succeeded in steps leading up to getting that hammock. What if you died the day before you were due to buy it? Would you see yourself as a success or a failure? I would still say that was a successful journey. You may not have got the end result because it was your time up, but it was still a successful journey.
Yeah, you were on track. You were on track. Things were going right.
Yeah. We will always face successes and failures in all our journeys.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I don't think success itself is a end goal. It's always a journey. We fail and succeed in that journey, and our end goal changes from time to time. It might evolve, it might inflate, it might deflate, it might change altogether. But success as a destination is not a concept that registers with me. I feel it's always going to be a journey, and we travel through that journey, living through many successes and failures. It's like saying, look, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z in my business, right?
Yeah.
Well, people who set out to do that and then don't celebrate the small wins, they've not enjoyed it. They don't feel as that success, and that plays on your mind. You're not content until you get the end result. Well, if you've set out to achieve certain small milestones in between, you should celebrate it. You should hold yourself, to celebrate. Fantastic, we've achieved this now. This was a short-term, mid-term, or long-term goal. We've got it. And you should celebrate. Some people don't even do that. They say, okay, I'll celebrate once we've got that house or that car.
That's me.
And that's
I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the challenge, all of that.
But you don't enjoy it as much.
Not as a success. I wouldn't.
The danger there is you stop appreciating what you already have.
Yeah.
You stop appreciating what you've already achieved.
Not necessarily.
Well, you may not appreciate as much if you had as much as if you've had a set criteria to say, okay, this is my journey. This is how I'm mapping it out. This is short-term, mid-term, long-term, whatever goals there are. Once I've achieved this, there's going to be a cause for celebration, this celebration, whatever. It might not be a celebration, but it's
that's a recognition. In going back to what you said earlier about a child from the age of 1 to 6 looks for approval and looks for, from their parents. thinking of that age, there's a lot of play fighting, play racing, play whatever,
Yeah.
and you're letting the child win, yeah?
Okay.
Or there's a lot of teasing. Oh, boys are better than girls. I'm better than you. This. Oh, look, my sandcastle's better than your sandcastle. What doesn't follow up quite often, not all the time, is then in latter stages teaching that same child to appreciate the runner-up in the race, or the other kid's sandcastle, or defeat.
Ibran mentioned a very poignant point here. He said, what about Nobel Peace Prize, for example? I'm not sure anyone who gets nominated or wins the thing is setting out to do so, right? And that comes back to this point you mentioned about being runner-up and stuff. What is a runner-up? What is a winner? Who holds the criteria? Are we going to let external? Okay, there are recognized things. They've become a recognized thing, right?
Yeah.
Sports aside, look, there are set goals in sports and there are set figures in sports. You break that, and you're there. You are the one. Whatever. I'm talking about general life. I'm talking about away from those kind of criteria, sports criteria, because they're measured. They're black and white. But in general life, because there's a consensus on who is a winner, the first one to cross the line is a winner. End of, right?
Yeah.
In general life, how far do you want to go seeking external approval before feeling yourself to be content and doing okay?
It depends what you partake in, isn't it? If you join the rat race, then you're in the rat race. If you join an actual race, you're in an actual race. If you enter a boxing ring, if you...
Again, sports aside, you're talking about racing and sports again. Forget that. I'm talking about general life. We have to distinguish the two. There are clear-cut measurements that define
what's general life. General life.
Yeah, you living your life, whatever car you want to drive, whatever house you want to end up living in, what factors were taken into consideration before you bought that car or lived in that house or moved into that area or that kind of thing. How far do you go in accepting or taking other people's approval or seeking people's approval before you feel content within yourself? I'm not asking you personally. It's a question I'm raising generally for people.
This is true. I agree with you. I think people's opinions, people's critiques, people's whatever just shouldn't even play a factor. And it goes back to when you were selling catalogs or
door-to-door gas and electric.
Phone books. Gas and electric?
Yeah, started off with gas and electric.
Gas and electric.
Yeah.
It shouldn't even matter at all.
I was the best.
But was that your goal? Was that what you set out to do? What? Because you were successful. Yeah? You were the best at doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Your goalpost now is not the race that you've entered, but the field that you've entered. The idea is to sell gas and electric. You've sold the most. You're successful. But then you've got people who are saying this and that, and naysayers and haters and critics and all of that stuff. Shouldn't play a factor at all.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
But it does.
It does for people who lack emotional intelligence. Sorry, that probably didn't come out the way it should have come out.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's true to a degree.
I think it is.
I think it's true because as we go,
for want of a better word, it's people who are more righties, aren't they?
I don't know. I think people who people who are righties will probably feel more.
Have you changed?
I think I have. There are a lot of things that don't bother me anymore. I think it's also a part of aging. I think at a certain age you come to where you stop giving a shit about what other people say or do or think. Yeah, you just get on with your life. And I've seen that so many times in life. The times when I've tried to fight a cause or a corner, then shit's always slung back on the person who's trying to fight for the good. But when you just continue doing what you feel that the right thing is to do, right? As long as you're doing your research and you're not hurting anyone, you're not harming anyone, you're You're doing it with good intentions and sincere intentions. Even if you're not successful, it doesn't bother you because at least you tried. You realize that, you know what?
I've seen people measure their success through the quality of their haters.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's an interesting one.
They say if you haven't got any haters, you're not doing things.
You've not made it.
You've not done it right. Yeah.
Which really shows where we are as a society. It's a bit of an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Lubbs is saying nowadays society defines a lot of things, e.g., how people live, who is successful, who is good, who is bad, etc. Should we strive to please people or ourselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the fundamental point, isn't it? You know, I think a lot of us have these. We've been conditioned to think in certain ways. We've been conditioned to please people around us. We've been conditioned to at least take on board and be conscious of what other people's opinions might be by us taking certain actions. Yeah. And I think that's something that changes either through experience, either through hardships, adversities, and age. I've seen some old people who are still very much immature, and I've seen some really young people who have a lot of maturity about them. So it swings and roundabouts. And I think, if anything, the intelligence changes, and it comes back to emotional intelligence again. I would say those people who know how to emotionally handle themselves and what's going on around them more maturely may or may not take certain things into consideration depending on what those situations are, what those ideas or those thoughts are. I personally have for the last 15 years now, I can pretty much pinpoint in my life at what point in my life I changed my thinking and my ways, and from then on I've done things the way I feel they should be done without much consideration about what other people may think. The only person who, or the only people who might come into my mind in terms of, you know, it would matter to me what they think, are people who I have a lot of respect for, and I may ask for advice, and, you know, people like teachers, people like mentors, people like senior members of the family, but only to a degree where it's okay to accept that they may not be happy. But I'm going to carry on.
Have you seen Rocky?
A long time ago, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember his trainer?
Yeah.
I think he passes away in the second or third one. Was it? Whenever it is. Yeah. How encouraging was he to the Italian stallion? You know, you're a bum, you're this, you're that, you're nothing.
Yeah. People react to different things. Some people react to the challenge. You tell them you can't do something, they'll want to do it more to prove them wrong. Some people, you keep telling them you're crap, they will start believing it.
See, I have an issue with that. I have a big problem with that. The whole objective is to prove people wrong and prove yourself right. People or no people, you've got to look to prove yourself right and challenge yourself. You've got to push your own boundaries in order to achieve goals. Otherwise, it's not really a goal, is it? You haven't achieved anything in doing something that you knew you could do all along. You see a fiver on the floor and you just lean over and pick it up. Where's the challenge? What's the, how have you bettered yourself?
Well, what's to say they have to challenge themselves?
Of course you have to.
Why?
It's life, isn't it?
Why?
So you can allow somebody to tell you you're no good and eventually believe it.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you can go through life, forget about what other people say, or you can go through life, live a mediocre life and not challenge yourself, and that could just be a lifestyle choice. And what?
Okay.
Why do I have to challenge myself?
I guess
you don't. It's a legitimate option.
It is an option. It is an option, but I tell you what's not an option is allowing someone else to tell you you're a failure, is allowing someone to tell you you'll never amount to nothing, is allowing somebody to tell you that you'll never achieve it.
What do you mean that's not an option?
It's not an option to settle for that Otherwise, you've proved them right and your own self wrong. He's Rocky's trainer. Yeah, and I know it's fictional and whatever else, but there's a lot of reality in that.
Yeah,
happens.
I get it. But Ali, I'm asking the question, if somebody's said something, and why do you have to go out same thing again by going out to prove them wrong? Are you not still conforming to what their opinions are and taking them on board?
No.
Just like you don't want to be listening to them when you want to go and do something, and they say you have a business idea. Let's just say you have a business idea, and you tell someone in your family or friends, and they say, "Oh, it's not going to work. It's not going to work," right? You're advocating that you don't want to listen to that anyway, right? But if they're saying something like, "Oh, this idea is not going to work either," and you going just to prove them wrong, is that still not the same thing?
No, then that's illogical, isn't it?
That's what it sounded like you were saying.
No. You have a business idea.
Yeah.
You're going to sell cupcakes. Your family has a medical background.
Yeah.
Not the diabetes and the blood pressure. I mean, like they're doctors and surgeons.
Okay.
They tell you that cupcakes is stupid. It's silly. It's not going to make anything. It's not going to grow. You know, you can't allow that to change your decision or whatever. Advice is advice. I get that. But that's got to be fuel to your fire. If that's not fueling your fire, it's extinguishing it. And the last thing you want is to allow...
If you've set out to do something in the first place, and you have doubters, then you're right. I wouldn't let that... I would say, okay, that's fuel. That's fuel for me now.
It's got to be fuel.
Because if you've already started it. But if you're being pushed into doing something, and people enticing you to do something by using negative motivation, as an example, say, look, oh, you can't do that. He's not good enough. He'll never be an educated person, or he'll never be... Sorry, not an educated, but he'll never be successful in this, and this, even though it's got nothing to do with you. And then you going out just to do that, just to prove them wrong. That's wrong as well.
Yeah, then they played you, haven't they?
But here's an interesting one. Lub says, "Why is the approval of society is what disables people and defines what's perfect and right. How sad. We live in a society that tells us what's okay and what isn't. I've come to realize that there are many people pleasers. We shouldn't care about the opinions of others." And you know what? This ties in quite nicely with people with disabilities as well. People who have some form of learning difficulties, some form, and it's how they are viewed. Remember, do you ever watch a movie called Tare Zameen Par?
Only recently.
Yeah,
very good.
Amir Khan, brilliant movie, right? This guy is dyslexic, autistic.
Yeah.
And because of autism, this kid is like really, really creative. But because his other habits weren't conforming to the other kids' way of life or the rest of the way of life, it doesn't, didn't sit well with them. One should do what pleases them. Yes, M. Extinguish the fire, brother. I can't extinguish the fire.
No, that's the worst thing to do. Because that fire is what drives you. Do you see what I mean? That's your fuel. That's your
boom. Zafran Khan, discover your values. Highly motivated people often focus too much on execution without spending enough time to think about what to execute in the first place. I've delivered a talk, it's on YouTube as well, at networking events, success on your own terms. 3 things that I focus on. These are my own personal beliefs: values, purpose, and passions. The 3 things which frame me as an individual and help me define what I'm going to deem success in which parameters, because my values will determine whether success is a success. If it's not within my values, then it's not a success. It's not success. Purpose in life and passions, and so many people still don't know who they are. Who are you really?
How do you coach a mediocre person that has very little of many of these 3 things?
It takes time, but it's a matter of going through different aspects of their own conscious thinking and unconscious thinking, separating the 2 and determining what the factors are which help them to make decisions in life, and whether those factors and parameters themselves or ideals in their lives are based on their own ideals and standards, or by imposed by somebody else. In a nutshell, you go through a lot of stuff before determining from the core who this individual is. When you understand yourself more, yourself better, you understand what's going to please you better, what's going to make you happier, what's going to make you more content, because you're treating the core rather than the superficial shell, the exterior. You know what I mean? When we connect with our interior, the internal soul and mind, as I like to call it, then that's when you're really going to connect with looking into and working towards what's going to help you personally in life within a value system, because that's important. Because if you're going to tread on somebody else's happiness to find your own, they're not very good values, and I'm sure they're not most people's values anyway.
No.
But if they find themselves doing that at times, then they've got to, you've got to change certain things. We have come close to an hour already.
I feel like we just started.
I feel like it as well. I think I've done a lot of talking today. We had a couple of topics. Third time lucky. What do we do differently after falling short, if anything?
If you don't do anything different, you're.
You know my opinion on this. Some people say never give up, and I've noticed a couple of friends who I have in the coaching mentoring industry who have spoken about this as well. We have similar views. Sometimes it's sensible to give up. The people who know what they're doing, they know when it's the right thing to do, when it's the right thing to just give up and move on, do something different, go for something different. Sometimes if you've tried and tried again, I mean, Einstein once said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. If you try different results, you've asked for the right help, there is a time where you have to just stop being stubborn and say, okay, look, I'm going to move on from here. It's knowing when that time is a completely different thing. But when the shoe's on the other foot, what if somebody else has wronged you or done things or said things, and how often do you give them a chance? Are they worth it? Or does it depend on who they are, what relationship they have with you?
I don't think the relationship matters. I think the fact is it a behavioral trait? Is it a characteristic? Is it, a learned behavior can change over time. But if it's a trait in that person that you've seen time and time again, then what do you really want?
Yeah, it just doesn't bother you, does it? So, why so often are we quick to write off a person's venture? I think we've kind of gone through that now, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that is an interesting topic, actually. And I don't want to say it's not fear of the unknown. It's just, it relates to the unknown.
Sometimes it's the fear of the unknown. Sometimes it's the fear of success. Some people
see, I have a lot of elders, I think, as most people do. When you go into a field which is unknown to them or of no interest to them, they'll say it won't work.
Yeah, they'll make that mind up.
Think of the first generation of vloggers and YouTube stars and these kind of people. Can you imagine what their grandparents would say to them? How are you going to make money? What are you going to do?
Exactly.
That's not a job.
It's not a concept they could fathom. It's not something they could comprehend. And I think this is why, when at the beginning I said, confidence comes from knowledge. And when you have knowledge, either of what you're doing to a degree where you are really knowledgeable and you feel that this is it, then that's fine. But most importantly is having the knowledge of yourself, knowing yourself. This world is such a unique world. Everything is in perfect order. We are in this perfect order also. That gives us a significant role to play. No one else can take our position. The problem we have is we have far too many people imitating or wanting to be like other people. God created us in so many unique ways. Even identical twins have their differences. Yet we're hell-bent on looking like someone else, talking like someone else, dressing like someone else, makeup like someone else, beard like someone else. Gotta keep the balance. Beardos. But we're hell-bent on imitating others. Why not be your unique self? And you know what? You can't go wrong being yourself.
Well, you can if you want to.
You can't go wrong being yourself. Whether yourself is wrong or right.
You can't say that in 2020. Seriously, you can go wrong.
No, Ali, you misunderstood what I'm saying. I said you can't go wrong being yourself.
Yes.
being who you are as yourself may be right or wrong.
Yes.
That's a different thing altogether. But you can't go wrong being yourself. You're being you. But whether you is right or wrong is another discussion altogether.
Okay.
That's the caveat. That's the caveat. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting discussion. Now, I feel like we can just carry on with this discussion. Sticks and stones. Okay, let me ask you a series of quick questions, quick fire round for you. Measure of man. What do we use to judge someone's success by?
We don't.
Okay, you have it or you don't. How true is this exactly, and what does it mean?
For the most part, I think there's truth in it, but it's not. No, it's not true. I changed my mind.
Did you see his eyeballs rolling? Concentrating. Third time lucky. What do we do differently after falling short, if anything?
Learn.
Okay, learn. Good
Learn
answer.
and act.
Good answer.
It's no good knowing what you did wrong and then doing it again.
True. The X factor: natural born talent or nurtured skill?
99.4% of the time, nurtured skill. A natural talent, a born X factor skill is, honestly, for those people listening, my honest advice is don't put all your eggs in one basket like that. I know your mom says you're a great singer, and I know your dad says you can be the next Ronaldo, but nurture some skill, work on something.
Good. Okay. It'll never work. Why so often are we quick to write off a person's venture? Your final thoughts on that?
Fear of the unknown.
Okay. Sticks and stones, understanding the mindset of naysayers. You're still not decided on that, are you? You still don't know.
I think I'm just disinterested. Is disinterested a word? Is it not interested?
Uninterested.
Uninterested.
I think.
What you described about the brain earlier, I think I'm more on the lefty side. I just have no interest in naysayers and what they have to say.
Okay. Haters gonna hate. Honorary mentions of any of your favorite critics?
No, it wouldn't be right. It would boost them too much.
Final question. Does
Oh,
the cap look good?
the cap looks good.
Oh, man. I feel like a different person wearing this cap. I feel like
you don't usually wear headgear, do you?
Never.
Whereas I'm the complete opposite. I will always be wearing one cap or another. I must have like.
Rahim is asking, who is Ali Khan? Ali Khan, well,
That's a good question.
that's deep.
We're gonna have to do another show for that.
I said this on a podcast earlier last week. I was on another podcast and somebody, I said it on our podcast right at the beginning as well. Something I've said in a few talks as well. Rahima, there's a philosopher called Cooley, and he once said, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. So who's Ali Khan? Something for you to think about. He is who you think he is. So whether that's a positive or a negative, you'll take it. You'll take anything right now.
Easy now. It's dinner time.
It's been, you know what? I'm proper fired up, and it's been a full hour since we've been on the show. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for tuning in. Always a pleasure. Yeah, I mean, we will. You know what? We've had such a mixed day today. Well,
it's been a bit of a roller coaster. With the issues and the technical difficulties and everything else, and the people watching now thinking with the format, it was all planned. Everything was planned.
It was meant to be like this. Yes. So, yeah. Well, it was lovely to have you with us. Thank you, Zahib. It was lovely to have you with us. Thank you, everyone, for the comments. Do like and share the feed so other people can, entertain themselves. Like our pages, Beardos Media on Facebook as well as YouTube. By the way, we've never plugged in our YouTube channel properly. So if you guys have got a YouTube account, just go over to Beardos Media. You'll see our mugs on there. and subscribe for us. Will be a star.
We haven't set up next week's topic. Should we
Oh,
leave that to
actually,
these
if
guys?
you have any suggestions for a topic or any suggestions for any topics, let us know. We'll be happy to consider different topics and the different kind of discussions we can have. We'll give you a shout out as well. So thanks for joining us. Have a good evening. See you next week.